Hey, so welcome to this video. I'm going to teach you how to be happy, sexy, and have millions in the bank. So here's the thing. Most people live their life by default, right? Like in the moment, life happens, you make a decision, you do it. Something else happens, you react to it, you do it. We don't really think, we haven't been taught that we can actually approach our life as if it were a blank slate, and literally imagine blank canvas. And what would it look like if I thought about like who I am at the core of who I am, almost like your soul, right? And you're Jackson Pollock, right? If you don't know who that is, he's a famous artist, and his art was just like color on a canvas, you know, shapes, images, like just color on a canvas, right? And it was hugely successful, right? He's a great artist, widely renowned. So the reason I'm telling you that is because when you think about how do you become happy, sexy, and have millions in the bank, is if you were thinking, okay, so what would it look like now in your life? Forget what happened in the past. You've got this blank slate and you think like, okay, who am I now? And you may not know who you are right now, and that's okay. We're going to talk about that. But if I were to just sort of like do a Jackson Pollock, like my soul was just like, choo, like everything in my life, my health, my emotional health, my physical health, my mental health, my how I looked at my work, my money, the legacy that I live, how experiences like fun, play, growth, learning, my spiritual life, like literally all the areas of my life, my community, my friends, my romantic relationships. If I were to just like say, how could I design and create my life if there were no limitations? And you probably are thinking of all the reasons why you can't, and that's okay. Just be with the process here, because I'm going to show you how you do it. What would that look like, right? Because one thing I want you to take away from this video, if nothing else, is like, I just want you to know that that is a possibility. That is a different way to live your life, is to actually design and intentionally create the next chapter of your life, rather than the old way, which is shit happens, you react to it, you make a decision, you do that for a while, you're happy, you're not happy, you move from the pain of what it is into something else that you hope gives you less pain. You do that for a while, that gives you some pain, you adjust to that, right? Like think about all the different things in your life. And that's what we're normally doing is we have an idea, we do it, it gives us satisfaction or pain, and we either react to it to solve that pain, or we try to get more of the happiness. And we're reacting, right? The problem with this is really huge because, well, number one, we often feel then that we have no choices and that we're trapped and that the circumstances are creating our life. And if you rinse and repeat that over time throughout your life, you get to the end and you feel like you wouldn't have a peaceful ending of your life because there's so many regrets and so many things you didn't do. And so if you think about this of like, okay, well, I want to design, I know this is morbid, but hey, it's the reality. What would it look like if I designed my life, it's an expression of my soul in all the areas, so that at the end, I'm peaceful. I know that I lived the fullest life that I could, that I sucked the marrow out of the bones of my life, that I ran the bases, you know, I hit the ball and I slid into home plate. I hit that casket. Maybe I'm a little battered and bruised, right? But that's because I lived my life. I didn't let life live me. I lived my life. Now, the problem is that most people are reacting, as I said. They don't see possibility, and they believe that life is happening to them, not for them. So in this experience of life design and creating your own life intentionally, everything that's happened to you up until this point is actually perfect for you in this paradigm. because it's giving you all the wisdom and experience you need, which is like one of the most freaking awesome parts about being in midlife is you're like, I learned a lot. I learned a lot. It hurt a lot. So what? Now what? Now what? I saw an ad the other day and it was about midlife. And it was like, are you going to approach midlife going, now what? Or are you going to be like, now what? Now, here's another problem. And I don't want you to make it. I don't want you to make this mistake. And that is that most people wait until they get to a certain elusive condition and they go, well, then I'll be happy, or then I'll do that Jackson Pollock of my life. But I can't do it now, right? Because there are self-imposed limitations and beliefs that are usually the result of deeply ingrained patterns that are conditions about the shoulds of what we should and should not do. There's a voice in our head that tells us what we should and should not do, what we can and cannot have, what we are worthy of and what we are not worthy of. And if you don't acknowledge this, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. The old way is to blame the conditions, right? Blame your marriage, blame your job, blame the fact that you have X amount of money in the bank. But I'm going to posit that that is just an excuse, and that the most important thing you can do in all of this that I've talked about so far is say, I'm going to take responsibility for everything that's happened. I'm going to use the wisdom that I have gained. I am going to make it a focus to live a life where the most important thing is that I am just fully being me, and then I'm going to start living my life from that place. That is a path. That is a plan, right? And then how do I mix that with actually the structure of life design, right? Like really discovering, who am I now? What blows my hair back? What lights me up? And not just those things that like are adrenaline, right? Like skiing down the mountain, or like going on that big hike, or sitting on a beach in Aruba, right? We're not talking about those adrenaline or those like escape experiences. We're talking about literally like, who are you and what is so aligned and resonant with who you are that time stops. It feels like you're in flow. You feel like you are living your purpose. You feel like this is who I am, right? And actually you can distill that into like 5 to 10 things. And then you can really think about like, okay, so if I have more of that in my life, and then I start dealing with all of those shoulds and have tos and address those patterns, and then I start to do a series of experiments so I don't blow up my life that I have now. I just start to explore, almost like if you're dating an idea about like, well, could I try this? Maybe I could do this. So let me give you an example, right? So I have a client who worked in a career as a project manager for like 40 years-ish. And she knew one day she wanted to retire, but she was afraid to retire, but she also wanted to retire. She has a partner, been divorced a couple times, relationship's going great, but also it's like time to design the next chapter, right? And so what we got really clear on is like what lights her up. And what she loves is really teaching and mentoring in her work, right? Bringing along other people in her same career and path. She didn't really realize that. And so she had this idea of like wanting to do some private consulting once she retires, and just do it part-time, because she likes what she does. And through this process, one of the experiments that we came up with was to teach a course as an adjunct professor at a university. Now, before she did that, she had to actually take a baby step. And the baby step was she got involved in a professional organization and tried out doing this mentoring, right? And getting involved with young people as part of this organization. And she took a leadership role, and she was like, well, taking the leadership role doesn't blow my hair back, but doing the actual work does. Working with these young people who are up and coming in my profession. That experience led her to actually being invited to be an adjunct professor at the university. She did another experiment where she taught. She loved it. She loved it. Meanwhile, she's doing her job. She's working this design life process. She's talking about it with her partner. She's getting rid of the should. She's dismantling all the narrative of what she should and shouldn't do and what she deserves and doesn't deserve. She's also doing some experiments around where she wants to live, right? All based on who she is right now, right? Her values. And she realizes also as part of this process that she doesn't really even know, like, what does it take to retire? Like, how much money does she need? Does she have that much money, right? Like, what is the amount of time she actually needs to work? So as part of this process together, that was one of the steps she took, was getting really clear on what is it that she needs. And you know what? She realized the millions she had in the bank actually were enough, and that she'd been scared, that her identity was so attached to her work, that she didn't know what she wanted to do, that she just was going to keep on working because that's all she knew. She's been doing it for a long time, right? Especially surviving through divorces and all of those things. And so guess what? She got asked back, teaching, totally leading to already conversations around possible consulting. She gave her employer her retirement date. When we looked at it, we're like, 18 months, baby, what are we going to do next, right? And now we're actually looking at what are the other details of her life design plan, right? Because it's coming, it's happening. So I'm telling you this because not only does she feel excited about her future, she feels confident in leaving her traditional job and actually retiring. She has a conversation and a plan that she's creating with her partner, right? So she's doing this structured process with her partner. She feels lighter. She feels happier. She lost weight. She feels more healthy. She is really excited about the next chapter in her life. And by the way, her sex life has never been better. So I'm telling you this because I want you to understand, right, that the steps you need to take are figure out what are the shoulds and the beliefs that are keeping you stuck, right? What's the old narrative? Number 2 is figure out what blows your hair back. Get really clear by looking at days of your life and actually tracking your energy and engagement over 5 to 7 days, specifically in each area, and rank it. Is it a 5? It lights me up, right? Is it a 1? Oh my God, this is totally draining my energy. Not with the purpose of trying to like fix the ones, but just to be really honest, I think so often in our life, we get really like so conditioned to like, if something sucks, just how do we fix it, make it better? Yeah, that's great. But also like, why are we tolerating those things? Are there things that we're doing that we don't need to be doing? Are there things that we can say no to for now? Are there people in our lives that we're obligated to be relationship with that aren't reciprocal, right? This is the time to really take stock of what's working and what's not working in your life. Not from a place of judgment or self-criticism, but from a place of creation and observation. Because once you know what's not working, then you can start to design. And that is the piece that gives you freedom. You're not looking at this going, well, this is it, and that sucks. You're not waiting. You're looking at, I'm doing this now because I'm going to start taking those baby steps. And here's the last piece that I want you to understand is that when you are looking at how do I round the corner into that casket, right? How do I die knowing I lived a full life? Creation is one of the things that helps us feel like we lived a meaningful life. And we create a lot in earlier parts of our life. But when we get in midlife, there's a stagnancy that happens. We stop creating, we stop dreaming, we're just waiting, right? When we start to feel like we are creating in our life, we feel alive. we feel enlivened, we feel young. That's how we tap into that energy that is that youthfulness, that vitality. Think about all the people that you admire who did something, right, in their life. They were in creation. And so when you use the wisdom that you've gained, when you start focusing on how can I be more me, and you say, what can I start creating? Just those 3 pieces, and there's more, but if just those 3 pieces are part of your life, you are gonna start feeling like you're in action of living your life rather than letting life live you. So if you would like to talk about how we can implement the life design process for you, absolutely book a call to discuss that with me. The link is in the description. Mwah! Happy designing.